Well, hi everyone and welcome back. Lots of people ask the very same questions. You hear them over and over again. When does the bubble burst? When do house prices fall? Why is everything so expensive? When is inflation going to slow down or stop? When does the debt become too much? Does this all just collapse eventually? Look, with phrases like the Great Reset and you will own nothing and you'll be happy, well, obviously many people believe that a collapse is coming. But is it really? Because as long as you participate in this system, it can technically go on forever. The bubble may never burst. The system may never collapse. See, as long as people keep taking out loans, as long as people keep buying houses and consuming and borrowing and paying their taxes and working in their jobs, and watching TV and arguing about Liberal versus Labor or left versus right, well, nothing fundamentally changes. Control tightens, rules multiply, costs rise, the gap between rich and poor widens, government and all of its bureaucracy expand. But if you're up to your eyeballs in debt, if you're fully embedded in the system, well, you're fine, right? Borrow, go and borrow, keep borrowing, right? This is what we do here. Keep participating, upgrade the house, upgrade the car, go and buy that new TV. But here's something most people don't actually really understand. Every time that you take out a loan, you dilute someone else's purchasing power. See, that money that they credited to your account, it did not come from savings. It was created from nothing, out of thin air. You didn't just buy yourself a house. You quietly made every dollar worth just that little bit less. But that's not your problem, right? Who cares? We're okay. As long as we're okay, we've got what we wanted. We've got exactly what we wanted. And if we feel a little bit uncomfortable about it, we can donate to charity and maybe that'll make us feel better and smooth it over. So people don't destroy systems that they benefit from. They don't collapse systems that actually build their wealth. See, it's deceptive, it's definitely immoral, but it's very convenient and it's what people do. And convenience always wins. Inflation will not slow. It doesn't matter who you elect into power. Not now, not ever. See, inflation isn't some kind of bug. It's the actual mechanism. And it compounds. Real estate prices will keep rising, whether you like it or not. Not because houses are actually worth more, but because money itself is worth less. And yes, some people are under significant mortgage stress, but they're out in the outer suburbs, right? They're out in the outer suburbs. They're over there. We're fine over here, where we are. So can you feel that attitude, right? The debt is not being paid down. It's rolled, it's expanded, it's normalised, and that's perfect because rising debt inflates your house price. It pumps up your super balance. It pumps up your stock portfolio. Everyone feels richer until they actually try to use it. See, there's no hard ceiling where we hit too much debt. We're at too much debt now, so the system has to stop. If $1 trillion isn't enough, well, all right, no worries, let's make it 2 trillion. If 2 isn't enough, let's make it 10 trillion. It's pretty straightforward. If 10 isn't enough, we'll make it 100. Soon we'll be in the quadrillions. See, there's no law of nature that says these numbers can't keep growing. Fiat monopoly money that we use day to day is not scarce. Credit isn't scarce. It's infinite. But what is scarce is purchasing power. So the real question isn't, can this continue? Of course it's going to continue. Of course it can. Print more, lend more, borrow more, roll it over. Let the poor suffer. And that is the system. That's the system that we operate in. The real question is, does it ever actually burst? Does this bubble burst? Or do we just keep going with higher prices and higher debt and more suffering, smaller slices of the same pie? Inflation isn't a failure of the system, okay? It's the pressure valve. When debt becomes too big to pay down honestly, it gets paid down quietly through dilution. Prices rise, wages lag, savings decay. No collapse required. Most people think that money is something that you earn and something that you save. Look, back in the 1960s and 70s, yeah, 100%, that's what people used to do. But modern money is something that's issued and serviced. See, as long as credit flows, confidence holds, and payments clear, the system doesn't need to stop. That's the bottom line. That's why waiting for a reset may be all smoke. This thing doesn't end because it's unfair. It ends, if it ends at all, because people change their behaviour. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? People don't wake up when they actually understand the system. They wake up when it stops working for them personally, when it affects them. Not when inflation hits the headlines, it's irrelevant. But when it hits their lifestyle, not when debt itself, the government's debt looks scary, but it's more when refinancing fails, not when trust erodes, but when options disappear. See, until then, people adapt. They downgrade quietly. They normalise less, having less. They call it the new normal. They blame immigrants, politicians, corporations, boomers, the other side. Anything but the structure that they're actually embedded in. Because blaming the structure means admitting participation. And that's a cost that most people won't pay. So no, there might not be a mass awakening. There might not be a moment or a collective realisation. What we might get instead is fragmentation, where some people pull ahead and many people fall behind. Most tread water and call it stability. The system itself doesn't need everybody asleep. It only needs enough people to be compliant. And compliance doesn't come from ignorance, it comes from dependency. The more dependent that you are on income, on credit and borrowing, on stability, on permission, well, the less likely you are to resist anything at all. That's the real trap. It's not debt, it's not inflation, it's not prices, it's dependency. So if you're waiting for the system to break before you act, you're already late, because this doesn't end with a bang. I don't feel it does. It ends with compression, fewer choices, higher costs, more rules, more laws, less room for us to move. I don't believe it's going to be a collapse. So the real question isn't when does all of this burst? When does this bubble burst? It's how exposed are you if it never actually does? Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you got something out of the video. Make sure you share it with a friend. Share it with all of your friends if you can. Hit like and subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment in the box below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.